Okay, so in the beginning, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God said, "Let there be water under the sky to be gathered in one place, and let the dry ground appear." God said, "Let the land produce vegetation." And God said, "Let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate day from night." And God said, "Let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds." And God said, "Let us make mankind in our image and our likeness." And God saw all that he made, and he said that it was good. Now, I got to tell you that I've never, ever, ever heard or read a version of this story where God said, "But what if the light doesn't stay on? What if the waters won't stay in one place? And because the waters won't stay in one place, what if there might not be vegetation? And since there might not be land, what if there's no living creatures? And if there's no living creatures, there can be no one man made in my image and likeness. And what if it doesn't turn out good?" Have you guys ever heard that version? I haven't. Now, we may have that version in our personal lives, yes? Yeah, sometimes in our personal lives. So today we are beginning our 5-week series on the book by Mindy Odlund called What If It All Goes Right? And Mindy was actually a classmate of mine, and she was just so excited that we're going to be doing this process. And she offers us so much free material for our book studies and stuff. So just to let you know, she's just a really, really great, wonderful person. So, what if up? This is what we're talking about today. She's created this what if up, and this is a verb. And it's to ask what if questions in a way that expands possibilities and inspires innovation. And she said some variations on that would be what if upping, and you might be a what if upper. And that's what we want to get to, that we're going to be what if upping and we become a what if upper. So the questions that she asks in the very beginning of her book are things like, what if you could achieve greater financial success despite the reality of a struggling economy? What if you could improve your physical health and well-being despite the reality of a medical diagnosis? What if you could manifest your ideal romantic partner despite the reality of prior relationship disappointments? What if you could fill your life with peace and beauty despite the headlines of violence and environmental degradation? And what if you could impact the world in a way that fulfills your purpose and passion even after you've established a level of success in your life? And these are pretty big questions, aren't they? They are. They're pretty big questions. And what this book does is it gives us a step-by-step process to move into these possibilities and potentialities. Now, she says in the very beginning that you may look at this material and think that it's Pollyannish. And to me, that kind of means simple. And I really believe the principles are simple. They're not always easy for us to really integrate in our life experience, but they are simple. But ultimately what she says is, please just keep an open mind, set aside judgment, and I love how she ends that. She says, and journey beyond the intellect into the realm of miracles. Doesn't that just sound great? I'm in. Let's journey into the realm of miracles. So she begins by telling the story of when she learned to drive. And so this was in high school. It was in Texas. So she said, this is like 6-lane highways. And so she gets into the car. She's the driver. The driver's ed teacher is next to her and 2 students in the back. And she is so nervous. And so she starts out. The driver teacher tells her what to do. Well, they have to get onto this big highway. So he guides her, on the ramp, and she gets into the lane, and immediately it's just white knuckling it because it's their first time to drive. She said all she can think about is looking at the yellow lines and trying to see the front tires. And so she's just focused on those yellow lines and trying to see the front tires. And she said that the faster that she went, the more frenzied she got, the more scared she got. And the driver's ed teacher was trying to encourage her to move into the other lane. And so she would be looking like this and trying to move, and then it would have to swerve back, and this went on for a little while. And she found herself in such a frenzied state, and her driver's ed teacher recognized that she was in this frenzied state, and she said he should probably be nominated for sainthood after this experience. But she said that he offered her priceless, a priceless, profound bit of advice, and this actually became the basis for her book. And that bit of advice was this: shift your focus. Shift your focus. I think we talk about that a lot, don't we? Shifting our focus. And so she said it went against her every instinct to do this. And so, for a moment she looked up and bam, immediately she went right back into the safety of being able to see those lines in front of her. And he said to her, again, just very gently, shift your focus and raise your vision to look at the sign up ahead of you. And so she did that, and all of a sudden she was able to stay in her lane. And she said actually her moving from one lane into the other became rather elegant because she had shifted her focus and lift her vision. And of course we see that in Scripture. We see that over and over again. I'm not going to look at the reality of what is standing in front of me here and keep my focus on that. I'm going to lift my vision to a higher place. That's what Jesus did over and over and over and over again. So from this came ultimately this book. And she says that there's two words that hold incredible power, because they have the power to create and they have the power to destroy, to tear down. And that we use these words every day, whether we're conscious of it or not. And that those two words are, what if? What if? Do you recognize those words? What if? Yeah? Of course, we all use the words what if, and even if we're not quote unquote looking or saying specifically what if, we are what ifing on a pretty regular basis. So the first thing that it encourages us to do is to look at how the world has evolved to become what it is today, and to recognize that as you look around in this room, as you look around in your home environment, in grocery stores, wherever you are, that everything that exists in a physical form first began with a thought. It first began with a thought. And so here's what she shares. So I'm going to have you read it while I say it, because you got to kind of follow this. Here is the cycle of creation. The thought elicits a feeling. The feeling inspires us to take action or not. And action determines our reality. And typically, we point to this reality as the basis for our next cycle of thoughts. And we justify our thoughts by pointing at reality and saying, but see, it's true. I totally resonate with that. I totally understand what she's saying here. So let me give you an example of this. When we go to Scripture and we go to the man by the pool of Bethesda, where he has been laying on a mat for years and years and years. He's an invalid, and the waters stir up, and people go into the waters as they're stirred up, and they get healed. But he hasn't gotten into these waters. And so Jesus goes to this man and he says, do you want to be made whole? Do you want to be well? And the man's response is, yeah, but every time that I go to get in the pool, by the time I get there, because I can't get there very fast, I think all the healing energies have already been taken by everybody else. The waters aren't being stirred up anymore. And Jesus simply looks at him and he says, pick up your mat and walk. And essentially what he's saying is, don't keep looking at the same thing and expecting a different result. You've got to change your thought and get up. Change your thought and get up and do something else. And that's exactly what he did. And so we can see how that story supports what goes on in our life all the time. We have a thought, and then a thought inspires a feeling. The feeling inspires us to take action or not, and our action determines our reality. And when we've done that enough with the same thing, the reality seems as though it is impossible to have it any other way. And so, bam, we move into that place of saying, well, this is just how it is. This is just how it's always been. This is what they tell me is how it's going to be, right? Yeah, that's what we do until we become conscious, until we wake up, until we really start deciding that we are gonna fully be conscious co-creators in our life experience, conscious co-creators. And I love the idea, not the idea, I believe this is true, that literally we are immersed in the substance that God is. And it is infinite, and it is pure potentiality and possibility, and the substance responds to our deepest faith, our deepest beliefs. It doesn't always respond to our desires, and you know why? Because we don't always believe our desires. But it responds, it absolutely responds, and then is shaped and formed and molded, according to that. Okay, so I'm going to share with you some things from Papa Charlie, from Charles Fillmore, about what he says about thinking and about thoughts. Keep in mind that he taught this stuff 100 years ago and more, right? No, not quite. Yes, okay. And this is just principle that has withstood time. From his book, Dynamics for Living, he said, to man is given the highest power in the universe, the conscious power of thought. There is a universal creative force that urges man forward to the recognition of the creative power of his individual thought. Now, thinking is the formulating process of the mind. Its nature is to think, and it will think, right? Our minds are thinking all the time. And this is why we want to really start to wake up and become aware of what we're allowing to go on in our minds over and over and over again. He says, if you are ignorant of your office and stand meekly by and let it think unsifted thoughts, your thinking will prove an unruly servant. Its good is ideas, symbolized in the Gospels as fish. And it is forever casting its net on the right, on the left, for a draught. So what this is about is the story in the Gospels where some of the disciples go out into the water to fish. They fish overnight, and they hadn't caught anything. And in the morning, they look, and there's a man standing on the shore, and he looks out, and he says, hey, friends, have you caught any fish? And they say, no. And he says, well, cast your net on the right. And so they cast their net on the right, and they can barely bring in all the fish that they caught. And of course, it was Jesus standing on the shore. And for me, it's that when I'm looking in a direction that isn't really serving what I truly desire in my life, it's the Christ of my being, the light of my being, that will come forward and say, cast your net on the right, turn and look this way and start looking in a different direction. And so essentially what Charles Fillmore says is, you alone can direct where the net shall be cast. You alone direct where that shall be cast. And that's not something that God does for us. We choose. The great thing about us as human beings is this, in this whole realm of animals, is that we have a thinking mind, and we can change our thinking mind. We can shift our thoughts. So we're the ones who have to choose to cast our net on the right side. He goes on to say, thought is a mental vibration or impulse. Come on, this is over 100 years ago. Thought is a mental vibration or impulse. Every thought clothes itself in a life form according to the character given it by the thinker. The form is simply the conclusion of the thought. The mind of man marshals its faculties and literally makes into living entities the thoughts that it entertains. So I'm going to show this in a fun way. Okay, so I think in my mind, I would love a cute dog, okay? And so here I am, here's my mind. I want a cute dog, cute dog, cute dog, cute dog, cute dog, cute dog. And so I'm entertaining these thoughts. And what he says is happening is that now these thoughts are clothing themselves in a life form, and ultimately it will make it into living entities. So here's what it becomes. Aww. But I didn't want to leave the men out. I want a manly dog. I want a manly dog, manly dog, manly dog, manly dog, manly dog. Of course, with the whole idea that we are the ones who choose those thoughts. And literally, and we're going to talk more about this as time goes on, but literally, as we continue to focus and focus and focus and focus, we literally make them into living entities in our experience somehow. He says that thoughts are controlled by the mind through its power to say yes or no. Man is a free agent, and he can open his mind to divine wisdom. And I think this is incredibly powerful. It is through this one power you establish your consciousness, you build your world. The power of your thinking mind, the power of the thoughts that you allow to be entertained on a regular basis in your mind. Through this one power, you establish your consciousness and you build your world. Pretty big, huh? Wow. Wow. You know, I did some research because there's all these things, you know, how many thoughts a day do we have? And it's all over the board, but I'm going to tell you, we have a lot. We have a lot of thoughts every day. We have a lot of thoughts every hour. We have a lot of thoughts every minute. And I really believe that most thoughts, they're just kind of fleeting, but there are thoughts that, because things have been the way that they are, we let those thoughts, without even realizing it, continue to create this same experience. So we want to wake up and start becoming aware of what is it that I'm thinking about this, and I'm going to cast my net on the right side now. I'm going to shift my focus. And what if upping is a fabulous tool to do this. What if upping is a fantastic tool to do this. So first I'm going to talk about what if downing. And I think all of us probably are somewhat familiar with what if downing. And what if downing is using the power of what if to talk yourself out of an idea. And we do this both consciously and unconsciously. So we would be saying things like, what if it doesn't work? What if it's too expensive? What if I lose what I have now going for something else? What if I fail? What if people judge me? What if the timing is wrong? What if I make a mistake? What if, what if, what if, what if? And you know, it's interesting because this, you know, my hair, but I could have made the decision not to do it because I'm thinking, well, what if everybody here doesn't like it? But they don't want to tell me. You know, it would keep me from doing something that I really wanted to do. It shows up in small things, and we have to catch those small things to recognize how they can show up in big things. Adele Brookman said, use your imagination, your thoughts, not to scare yourself to death, but to inspire yourself to life. Isn't that beautiful? And I love how she says that with what if upping, when used purposefully, the question, what if, allows you to instantly navigate the dark waters of your mind and skillfully turn your ship around in the face of an imminent iceberg. So I'm going to share with you a couple stories that she tells in her book that have to do with what if upping. So she says it's Philadelphia, June 1776. 1 year into the American Revolutionary War, Representative Richard Henry Lee travels from Virginia to propose a radical idea to a gathering of colonial leaders. Resolved that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved. For the next month, a discussion blooms. What if we declared independence from foreign rule and began our own government of the people, by the people, and for the people? What if we created a government that reflected our highest ideals? What if we built a new kind of government based on the inalienable rights of the governed? What if our commitment today will inspire future generations until the end of time. Hundreds of years later, we still celebrate July 4th as the birthday of this new democratic nation, the United States of America. Victor Hugo writes, "No army can withstand the strength of an idea whose time has come." Forward to the year 1887. A 21-year-old African-American widow with a 2-year-old baby and a job working the cotton fields of the Deep South looks at the racism and inequality that engulfed her daily experiences. What if she refused a life of poverty? What if she could acquire wealth and respect in a society drenched in materialism? What if she used her influence to blaze a trail for other women and African Americans who were subjected to daily discrimination? Yes, the first self-made female millionaire in America, Madam C.J. Walker, began as an orphaned African American single mom born to former slaves on a plantation in Louisiana. And the last one that she shares is December 21st, 1996. Anne Rowling receives the phone call that is every parent's worst nightmare. Her 16-year-old daughter, Emily, who loved to act, design costumes for the theater, and ride horses, was driving home with her best friend. There was a head-on collision with another vehicle, and Emily was killed instantly. Rather than allowing her grief to paralyze her, Anne prayed for a way to honor the life of her daughter. What if something positive could be brought forth through this tragedy? What if there was a way to bring Emily's passion for theater to the community in a way that nurtured and empowered other children and teens? What if this monument to Emily became a source of healing and hope to other parents who were experiencing the profound grief of losing a child? Today, the Emily Ann Theater is the permanent home of Shakespeare Under the Stars, the only high school accredited Shakespearean theater in the United States. All acting roles are filled by children no older than high school seniors, with some budding thespians as young as 5 years old. What if? And the thing about this is that we all have this power of what if. And this what if can bring us literally, from darkness and chaos into light and into hope. And when we move into hope, then we begin to move into a belief. And then as we move more into belief, then we start to move into faith. And then as we move into the faith, we start to move into the knowing. And things start to move in a different direction in our lives. The thing is, we got to hang in there. And we've got to do it over and over and over again. But every single one of us has the opportunity to cast our nets on the right side and to shift our focus and to look another way, because every single one of us has been gifted with a thinking mind. And I want you to remember this: our mind was never intended to have control in our lives. We were always intended to be the captain of this ship. We were intended to be the captain of our thoughts and where they go. And then as we start to shift and we start to what if and we start to move into these greater realms of possibility, this co-creative force that is all around us, it begins immediately doing what it does to bring about a result that is even beyond our greatest imaginings. And next week, we're going to go into imagination. So your homework, your assignment this week, if you choose to accept it, is to begin what ifing. What if upping, I should say. What if upping? Catch yourself when you're what if downing, and you're going to know that because it's worry, it's anxiety, it's fret, it's a pit in your stomach, it's teeth and your shoulders. Okay, I think I'm what if downing. In those moments, okay, I'm gonna cast my net on the right side. What if? And it's okay if you can't yet come up with a lot of what ifs, because next week we're going to talk about imagination, and the following week about possibilities. But I think it'll be a fun experience for this entire week. So as I finish today, I just want to say to each and every one of you, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. And may you be happy. And namaste.